I, Chair Chris Beyer, call the virtual board meeting of September 1st, 2020 to order at 9:36 a.m. Miss Debbie, would you please take roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Chris Beyer.
Present.
Blake Alexander is excused. Thomas Ingstrom.
Present.
And if I may say this, Thomas Ingstrom is in our boardroom. Roger Hendrix.
Present.
Thank you. Kenneth Hill.
Present.
Patrick Lamb.
Present.
Greg Moyer.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Very good. At this time, I'd like to see if anybody has any changes to the agenda. Hearing none, I, Chris Beyer, roll the agenda of order of business approved. Next, let's look at the approval of the draft meeting minutes from June 2nd. Anybody have any additions or corrections to the June 2nd meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, this is Roger Hendrix.
Yes, Roger.
Hey, just real quick, looking at the meeting minutes from last month's meeting, or the June 2nd meeting, sorry. In the members absent area, the vacancy of the engineer is not listed. However, it is listed down in the roll call. So that might be just a easy correction.
Mr. Chair, I could go ahead and take care of that before it's posted.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Any other additions or corrections? Hearing none, I, Chris Beyer, roll the draft minutes of June 2nd, 2020 final. Our next scheduled meeting is December 1st, 2020. Hopefully it won't be virtual. Now let's go into next item is vote for vice chair position.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Tyler Glaze. I'm a policy analyst for the division. So we're going to be doing the vote for the vice chair position. This will happen just like any other motion. Basically what you'll do is make a motion to nominate someone for the position of vice chair. The individual you're nominating must accept that nomination. The nominee can speak about their interests, their qualifications if they want to. If there is more than one nominated person that accepts the nomination, then we will take the votes for each nominee in the order that they were nominated, if that makes sense. So again, once we have the nominee that has received votes, there will be a motion needed to approve that nominee as well. So do we have any nominations?
Through the chair, this is Greg Moyer. I nominate Roger Hendrix for vice chair.
Roger, do you accept the nomination?
Mr. Chair, I do.
Excellent. Is there any other nominations?
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I forgot a few other rules. If the vote is unanimous, we don't need to hear any more nominees, and that person automatically becomes vice chair. And if there are more than one nominee, the person who gets the most votes would then become the vice chair. And if there is only one nominee, a motion is just needed, and the simple majority vote is just required to get that person to be vice chair. My apologies.
Okay, thank you, Tyler. So, wait, I'm sorry, Tyler. Do we need a motion to accept the nomination?
If I may interject, Mr. Chair, yes, we do need a motion. This is Debbie.
Okay. Thank you, Debbie. Does anybody want to give me a motion to accept the nomination?
This is Ken Hill. I'll make a motion that we accept the nomination.
Thanks, Ken. Do we need to do a roll call vote, or can we just?
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, we do need to do a roll call vote.
Thank you, Debbie. Would you go ahead and conduct that?
Yes, sir. Blake Alexander? I'm sorry, did I hear anything? Blake Alexander? Oh, sorry, he's absent. Greg Moyer?
I accept Roger Hendrix as vice chair.
Patrick Lamb? Patrick
I
Lamb?
accept.
Kenneth
I
Hill?
accept.
Thank you. Kenneth Hill?
I accept.
Roger Hendrix?
I accept.
Thomas Ingstrom?
I accept, Roger.
And Chair Chris Beyer.
I accept.
Mr. Chair, we do have a motion pass.
Excellent. Congratulations, Roger. Okay, looks like next we will discuss an executive session. I got this stuff to read. The Board of Boiler Rolls will now meet in executive session at 9:44 a.m. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.6602F for this session, which allows the board to meet in executive session to consider information or records that are exempt from disclosure by law, including written advice from board counsel. Representatives of the news media or designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to disconnect from their audio conference board meeting. No discussion may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, the board will return to open session and welcome members, staff, and public to join the meeting through GoToMeeting for the rest of the board. Debbie, could you make sure that all the equipment and audio recording is switched over to executive session, please?
Yes, sir. So all members can disconnect now and log on to the executive session.
Thanks, Debbie. I, Chris Beyer, announced the meeting is back in session at 10:45 a.m. Could you please take roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Chris Beyer,
Present.
Blake Alexander is excused. Thomas Ingstrom,
Present.
Roger Hendrix,
Present.
Kenneth Hill,
Present.
Patrick Lamb,
Present.
Greg Moyer.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, I believe we are now going into the public comment section. Can I ask Tyler Glaze to address the public comment item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Tyler Glaze again. I am a policy analyst for the division. It looks like we only have one public comment. I believe her name, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, ma'am. Kathryn VanNatta from NWPPA would like to testify.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Would you like me to start?
Please, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
For the record,
Excuse me, Kathryn, I'll be just taking your time with my cell phone.
for the record, my name is Kathryn VanNatta with the Northwest Pulp and Paper Association, or NWPPA. I am the Director of Regulatory and Government Affairs located at 2191 Southeast Oak Crest Drive, Hillsboro, Oregon, 97123. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the board this morning on the recent boiler extension cycle rule proposal. NWPPA has several questions today. NWPPA is a 64-year-old trade association that represents pulp and paper, our forest products facilities on regulatory, legal, and government affairs aspects of environmental and energy issues related to mill operations. I have been an NWPPA employee for the last 25 years and have represented NWPPA members before the Boiler Board on other issues. NWPPA represents pulp and paper and other forest products companies who own and operate boilers that would be or would have been regulated by OAR 918-225-0590 proposal by the Building Codes Division of the Department of Consumer and Business Services. We thank you for the opportunity to participate in the recent rulemaking process, to provide verbal and written testimony to the agency in July 2020 regarding the OAR rule proposal on boiler inspection cycle extensions in Chapter 918, Division 225-0590, and also the letter to NWPPA from Tom Clark dated August 13, 2020, in response to our rulemaking comments. Our first query is about the status of the July Division 225-0590 proposal. NWPPA notes the rule is not on your board agenda today, and NWPPA asks, A, what is the Administrative Procedures Act status of the proposed rule? And B, what are the agency's next rulemaking steps under the APA? Our second query is about the current process to request and be granted an inspection cycle extension. NWPPA notes that we testified we would like several specific modifications to the July rule proposal. Consequently, in lieu of the proposed rule, NWPPA asks for written clarification for large facilities like pulp mills. A, what are the expectations of the board members? And B, what are the expectations of the agency and their current agency process for a facility to request and be granted authorization for an inspection cycle extension of 24 months, including specific timelines for processing a facility request. NWPPA looks forward to the agency's written response to our questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I would be happy to answer any questions and work with agency staff and provide this testimony in writing to agency staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm kind of unclear of how to address this appropriately.
Through the chair, this is Greg Moyer.
Thanks, Greg.
So are you guys wanting a 24-month inspection cycle on your internal inspections? Is that what you're asking for?
Is that a question to me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Right. We're asking... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If I can remind everyone to identify yourself when talking, please.
This is Kathryn, VanNatta, NWPPA, trying to address the question about whether we're asking for an extension cycle for internal inspections. We are wondering what the process is since the rule was proposed and is now not on your agenda today. In our comments on that rule, we asked for an extension of the inspection cycle up to 24 months. Since we do not know where the rule is in the Administrative Procedures Act rule development process, we're asking clarification for what the current process is on how to request and be granted an inspection cycle extension. Thank you.
Okay. Through the chair, this is Greg Moyer. I'm assuming Tom Clark isn't here today.
Through the chair, I'm here, Greg.
Oh, you are? Okay. Because I know we've had this issue with Georgia Pacific, and my understanding is there is no granting of changing the inspection cycle, to my knowledge, right, Tom?
Through the chair, Greg, yes, that's part of why the proposed rule was proposed in the first place, was because we didn't have that process in place yet. Just a quick update for the board and for Ms. VanNatta. The proposed rule that was approved by the board and went through public comment has now been temporarily adopted and will be fully in effect as of October 1st.
Okay, through the chair, this is Greg Moyer. Tom, when we discussed this at the last board meeting, now and I wish I would have caught this beforehand, but is there something in the rule that's going to come about October 1st where you can only do this extension only like so long of a time before you can do it again?
Through the chair, yes, Greg. Part of the wording of the rule requires that extensions can only be granted once every 4 years. The intent was that this rule would not change the inspection cycle requirements as issued by the board through OAR 918-225-0570, I believe, is the inspection schedules. I'll have to pull that up to confirm that number. But the intent was that this was to assist in emergent or unexpected situations. It was not intended to be used on a routine basis to create a cycle that was not consistent with the cycle defined by the board. I'm scrolling down to it right now, I apologize. Inspection schedules are, yes, found in OAR 918-225-0570.
Okay, through the board, this is Greg Moyer. So, because here's like Georgia Pacific, I'll give for an example, and probably Northwest Paper and Pulp. the external can be done anytime on the boiler. I mean, that's not an issue. I think the whole issue here is with the internal inspections because of them not being able to bring the boiler down to do that internal on that inspection cycle. And I think that's the whole issue is the internal inspection, if I'm correct on this.
To the chair, may I respond? This is Kathryn
Yes.
VanNatta. For the record, Kathryn VanNatta, NWPPA. Our question is about the it's about the internal inspection and whether, now that we understand that you have temporarily adopted Division 2250590, our question is, does that rule proposal limit us to only to taking down our facilities every 12 months for the internal inspection? Can we still follow our 18-month cold shutdown cycle? And if we may, then we want to be able to have the 18-month cycle, and we are unsure about the process of requesting that.
Through the chair, this is Ken Hill. For the past 10 years, we have, the chief has granted 18-month cycles, and it was my understanding, my interpretation of OAR 918-225-0570, the first sentence that says the division can grant special permission. I was under the assumption that the chief could act as an agent of the division and grant special permission. So this past practice has been around for 10 years, and I know of a couple different paper mills that have been on an 18-month cycle for at least 10 years. So I'm a little confused why it changed. It's probably the right thing. Maybe I don't understand it, but it has been a past practice, and I believe this needs to be added to our agenda, and possibly even a subcommittee put together to discuss this further.
Mr. Chair, this is Roger Hendrix.
Through the chair, this is Roger Hendrix. Is that better? My apologies. I don't see the complete breakdown of the last meeting. I was trying to read through it, but if I understood the last meeting, the reason that this was a topic was because the chief had been granting this in the past, but there was no formal process, and I think we formalized the process. Was that the intent, or did I miss part of the conversation when I was trying to log back in?
Through the chair, Roger, I guess the best way to describe how this rule came about was that, as Mr. Hill mentioned, there had been a past practice, and we evaluated that past practice and felt that without proper criteria and definitions and guidance from the board, that we could not continue to grant special permission. So we stopped granting special permission, and then in order to try and fill that gap and assist our customers in emergent and unforeseen situations, we developed our proposed rule that we brought to the board last meeting.
And through the chair, I would agree with Tom. Chiefs did not have any kind of criteria from the board. So again, I think we, as a board, would owe it to further discuss this and make sure it's on our agenda and work with him because that is correct. The chief does not have any process he could follow right now. So I would agree with what he's done here.
Through the chair, I'd also like to address Ms. VanNatta's question. Currently, there is a form, an application form, to file for an extension in accordance with the newly temporarily adopted rule. We will make sure that form is available to the public on our website, and we'll provide better links to it in the future. Currently, it's just able to be found under our forms page on the website. We understand that the industry is interested in taking potentially further steps and that the board will have to deliberate on that. We feel that in the meantime, this temporarily adopted rule could help the industry if necessary.
Through the chair, this is Greg Moyer. Tom, I would actually like to see instead of having it once every 4 years, to look into possibly, granting these types of boilers, or, and it's mainly going to be in the pulp and paper mill, that they are on an internal cycle where it's every 18 months instead of, once doing it every 4 years. Because, let's face it, these guys can't just shut down whenever they want, because time is money to them guys. And believe me, if they're anything like Georgia Pacific, they got a third party coming in and doing UTs on these, and their water treatment guys, and I mean, they're really looking at these boilers, more than as an inspector of what I would look at. They're going above and beyond their duty to have these boilers inspected, and they know that they're going to be safe in operation. But I would like to look at changing that time frequency.
Through the chair, this is Tom Clark, the boiler chief. Greg, I think that's something that maybe we need to add to the agenda for next meeting to discuss more thoroughly.
That would be great.
Yeah, I like that idea. Let's add this to next agenda, and if everybody wants to put down their thoughts and get ready for a deeper discussion, that'd be awesome.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and add that to the next meeting agenda.
Thank you. Hopefully that addressed Ms. Kathryn's questions somewhat. Unless there's is there any other public comment? I don't think so. Let's go into reports. Mr. Thomas Clark, do you have any further updates you want to give on the program?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do. Again, this is Tom Clark, Boiler Chief. I have a few things I'd like to share with the board today. First, unfortunately, I am going to report a boiler accident at the end of July, on July 31st, in fact. We had a power boiler on the coast that caused a building fire. A short description of what happened: the boiler got stuck on high fire mode, where it was heating as quickly as possible, and for currently unknown reasons, the pressure limit switches on the power boiler failed to shut off the boiler when it reached its full pressure. Luckily, the pressure relief valves lifted, so pressure was relieved and the boiler did not explode, but it continued to fire even in this highly pressurized condition. Eventually, it continued to operate long enough that the exhaust stack overheated to a temperature high enough to ignite support material at the roof penetration and cause a building fire. Firefighters did respond fairly quickly, given that this happened at about 3 in the morning, but their efforts to put out the fire actually caused significant damage to the boiler as cold firefighting water hit a very hot boiler. It caused severe metal warping and damage. Luckily, a explosion wasn't caused at that time either. There was no loss of life or injury. Looks like about $250,000 worth of damage was caused by the fire. Major contributing factors besides the failure of the pressure switches, there was not a trained operator on site as required per OAR. The piece of equipment was not currently permitted and not had inspections in 4 years. The division has investigated. We found that the permitting issue was due to 4 years ago, the company stated that the boiler is being taken out of service and replaced with a new boiler, but it appears somewhere along the time frame between then and now that it was put back into service. So the boiler is beyond repair and is currently being replaced. The fortunate side of this, though, is that this is our first accident since fall of 2018. So we went about 18 months without an accident across the state, which is significant and a good indicator of the strength of our industry. So, any questions on the accident before I continue?
Yes, through the chair. This is Greg Moyer. You know, in our rules, it says a competent person. But here again, we can put something on the agenda. What is a competent person? You know, maybe we need to put a little more language in there to be more specific on the operator.
Through the chair, responding to Greg, yes, the code does say that a person suitably trained in boiler operation and control must be assigned responsibility for the boiler and shall be in close proximity whenever it is in operation. That is a fairly open statement. You know, suitably trained is not defined. If it's something the boiler board wishes to address, I would recommend that you put it on the agenda.
And through the board, this is Greg Moyer. You know, being an inspector, you know, I've been out there in places where they've had high pressure boilers on a timer and nobody's in the building. So, I mean, yeah, I've seen some, you know, stuff that could go haywire out there.
Well, through the chair, thanks for your comment, Greg, and I will continue with my reports. The next thing on my list is the overdue stats. Hopefully you all got a copy of these. I think they were sent out a little late. Brief summary, the state is currently at 15% overdue. That is down from 17% at our last meeting, which I am very pleased with given the current global climate, and we've had some personnel issues. So I'm very happy to see that number. The average across the insurance inspection agencies is currently 20%, which is down from 21% in June. So again, we're holding in fairly steadily right now as we expected, and hopefully these numbers in the next 6 to 12 months will start to go down as more businesses are open and more inspection agencies are putting inspectors into the field. Another item that may affect our numbers moving forward is, unfortunately, the state now has a inspector vacancy. We lost one of our inspectors, moved on to a new opportunity last week. So we are in the recruitment process. Posting should be up in the next few days. So if anyone knows someone who would make a good boiler inspector, please encourage them to apply. But depending on how long it takes to fill that vacancy, we could see an effect in overdues as other inspectors have to cover the vacant area. And the last thing I have for updates, I just got this information from Debbie this morning, but it sounds like we are going to be having, effective October 1st, 2 new members on the board. Joseph Garvey will be filling the public member position, and it looks like Jeffrey Rottert will be stepping up to take over for Ken Hill when he moves on. So I don't have any more information to share about them at this time, their background or anything like that, but I look forward to working with them at the next meeting. And Mr. Chair, that is all I have unless there are questions.
I have a quick question to the chair.
Yes.
This is Roger Hendrix. Hey, what region did we lose the inspector in?
Through the chair, this is Tom Clark again. Roger, unfortunately, it was our newest inspector that I had told you about at last meeting and wanted to introduce you to. He covers the kind of northern Clackamas and eastern Multnomah counties, primarily East Portland and North Portland.
Thank you.
Again, thanks, Tom. Looks like we have no communications, no appeals, no unfinished business. We'll move into new business. Tyler, could you go over the recommendations for continuing education courses, please?
I can. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Tyler Glaze, Policy Analyst for the division. For continuing education this round, we had 13 applications from 1 organization. 7 courses were recommended for approval. 6 instructors were recommended for approval. And right after agenda item 8 is the list of those. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know, and I would be happy to answer them as best I can. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, this will require a motion.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Roger Hendrix. I move to approve as read, although I closed my notes and I don't have the exact language in front of me. I apologize.
Right. Does anybody have any discussion on this? Hearing none. Debbie, can we take a roll call vote to approve?
Yes, sir. Greg Moyer,
I approve.
Patrick Lamb, Well, I'll go through the rest of the names, Mr. Chair, but without Patrick Lamb, we will not have a quorum.
Okay.
Kenneth Hill,
Approve.
Roger Hendrix,
Approve.
Thomas Ingstrom,
Approve.
and Chair Chris Beyer.
Approve.
Patrick Lamb,
Approved.
thank you. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Excellent. Thank you. We don't have any announcements, so we are going to adjourn the meeting at 11:15 a.m. Thank you all for your patience.